All right, welcome back to the Sports Wrap. Pleased to be joined now by Bill and Katherine White of Brain in Play and the Brain in Play Foundation. We'll get to that in a little bit. Bill, I'll start with you. Thanks very much for joining us. Let's start with this. Tell us a little bit about your organization and why you decided to come in here tonight.
Well, we're excited to have launched a Center of Excellence in Warwick, Rhode Island for the prevention and treatment of concussive injuries, which not only includes concussions, but also subconcussive blows that accumulate during contact sports. We're very focused on youth sports. We have a mission for both our Center of Excellence and our foundation to help save youth brains and also save youth sports. We have a great solution that is based on the latest medical science, which really will become launched in Rhode Island, but essentially a national platform for preventing and treating concussions with brain wellness best practices.
Now, concussions are sort of a hot topic all across the country at all levels of sport. Where did you guys find the passion to get involved in something like this?
Well,
I think it started with Madison.
Indeed, the fourth of our fifth high school athlete children came down with a pretty good concussion, and it ended up being a post-concussive syndrome of several years duration. So we were kind of steeped in that as well. I was also the Chief Operating and Chief Patient Care Officer at arguably our nation's top brain and behavioral health hospital, Bradley Children's Hospital, and certainly seeing many children day after day with brain injuries and illnesses. It really did, have an impact on driving my passion. And then ultimately, as we got more and more into this space and we unveiled our innovation at the Mayo Clinic International Concussion Summit, we were privileged to meet Dr. Ann McKee, who might be a familiar name to some. She's actually the NFL, NHL brain doctor who's done all those autopsies and found 76 out of 79 NFL brains to have, serious chronic traumatic encephalopathy. We were privileged to be with her during 2 of those autopsies, and truthfully, we've seen the damage that this kind of injury can cause to brains. Wouldn't you say that's where the...
Yes, and when you see it, you can realize how serious this issue is and needs much more attention.
We were talking before we came onto the set here that one of the demographics hardest hit may be a little surprising. Katherine, can you tell us a little bit about that? And from the mom's perspective, your thoughts?
Sure. I'll start out from the mom's perspective. It's often the mom who is the one that is watching every single thing, as I did with all of our children, watching every pitch, watching every ball that was going in the basket and what was happening to my daughter and so forth. So women, mothers, I think, are in a unique position to really get accurate information and be an advocate for their kids in collaboration with coaches as much as possible. But I think women really have that unique role and could take it very powerfully if they were more educated. As to incidence of concussion, surprisingly, the highest incidence of concussion for per player, per hour played, is college women's hockey. Second, high school women's soccer are the highest incidence of concussion.
It's very surprising to hear something like that. When you think of concussions, a lot of people just think football, pro football, and you're kind of safe at the younger levels, but that's not always true, and the helmet doesn't always protect you from the concussion, does it?
That's right.
Well, we are fortunate to have on our team a world-famous physician named Dr. Alan Asher, who's literally the world expert on hockey helmets. And indeed, with helmets, they were invented, if you will, to prevent skull fractures. With a linear, which is a head-on concussion, the American Academy of Neurology's position is pretty clear, will only reduce concussion risk by about 20%. Most concussions, though, happen from the side and the back, which results in a more severe twisting of the brain, and the reduced concussion risk is even less than 20% for those kinds of injuries. So we're talking about, yes, the skull houses this brain that has a little space between the brain and the skull, and Isaac Newton was right. something in motion stays in motion until it stops. And unfortunately, in the case of concussive injuries, it's when that brain keeps going and crashes against the skull and sometimes twists.
So just for clarity, through your center, Brain in Play, are you guys promoting that you have a solution, preventative kind of measures to avoid concussions, or after you've gotten a concussion, ways to reduce the symptoms and kind of heal?
No, that is a great question. The answer to which is both.
Okay.
We believe that if you can learn a system of how to improve the functioning, preservation, and growth of your brain cells to begin with, which we have an evidence-based solution that helps to do that, ultimately it reduces what's called chronic inflammation of brain cells as well as oxidative stress. You can in fact make your brain as strong as it possibly can be. And that will have your brain cells more functional, and you can also actually grow more brain cells. The research is just coming out on that, which is very exciting. So if you have a bigger, better brain that's a little bit stronger, there's a good chance that it will function better. You'll be able to avoid injuries. You'll see them coming at the last second. And all of those factors will add up to help be, preventative. Our system also, it's called B-Champs 24/7, also has a unique piece that helps kids to not play while head hurt. It's called an honor code. And basically a coach and parent and child decides to get together and say, I've learned about this, and I know the worst thing I can do is play while I'm head hurt, because if I do, that will lead to even more concussion damage if another one should happen, and I will lose a lot of playing time and hurt my team. It's tougher to sit out and play when your head hurt. You're a tougher person and a tougher athlete than you are if you play head hurt.
Before we get into the Brain in Play Foundation and any closing thoughts, I'd like to get your take on Chris Borland, the former San Francisco 49ers linebacker, just 24 years old, decided to retire. He was really ascending as one of the best young players in the NFL. Shocked a lot of people. He left a lot of money on the table. What did you think of that decision?
I was shocked by it because I was surprised that someone could figure out, of his age and stature, quite frankly, spending most time, I'm sure, focused on football, has figured out that indeed it is worth it to turn down $10 million salaries in the future to make sure that you don't end up having a brain like some of the ones that we saw on Dr. McKee's autopsy table. He's a hero in some ways, and what we want to really do, though, is emphasize that we're not anti-sports on the contact side. We believe we can actually save youth brains and save youth sports at the same time. Borland is in a situation where he's had concussions, so now big concussions. So he's probably been advised, after these unique kinds of brain scans they have now, that to continue to play might really put him at severe risk. And I'm just surprised that he knows so much about it and is willing to do what it takes to make sure he stays happy and healthy for the rest of his life.
And
that's a great thing.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And you can make the argument that at linebacker, that's an even more physical position, so he's getting his head knocked around all the time. Okay, before we let you guys go, Brain in Play Foundation, I'll give you the floor if there's any other thoughts or a message you'd like to get out there.
Well, thank you very much. Brain in Play Foundation is really our way to try to get the book into the hands of as many players, parents, and coaches as possible. If we can, we know that we can prevent and in many cases help to heal these concussions as they happen. We're going to be looking for community leaders to help us out with that. If we can get 1,000 books to one part of Rhode Island, 1,000 books to another part of Rhode Island, and then use the system that we have here to then scale this nationally and possibly globally, it will be very, very exciting, because we will help save youth brains. We will help, in some cases, even save youth lives, because as you know, second impact syndrome, which is a second concussion soon after the first, can actually result in kids passing away right on the field. We also want to let people know that we have a dance challenge out there called Do the Doc Wiggle in honor of Dr. A. Shear's 30 years of volunteer work in this field, and it will help to, again, use social media similar to the Ice Bucket Challenge to help get the word out about youth sports concussions, and that finally a solution is at hand.
It's a unique time in our environment now that we know so much about the brain. The brain is plastic. It will grow, it will adapt, it will heal. But we know so much now that we know how much it can be injured as well. So it's an opportunity to bring together those two sides of the coin and really educate people to do the right thing. And that is often sitting someone out a little bit longer than they want to, or the coach wants them to, or sometimes even the parent wants them to.
And I want to thank you, Mark, and Channel 12 for being visionary and leaders in this regard. We have a wonderful solution that can literally be changing the world of sports and preventing concussions and some of the serious consequences, but you have given us a voice, and we really appreciate that.
Well, I mean, you don't have to thank me. You guys are doing the work. It certainly is a very important topic, and very important for athletes and their parents to hear this message, so we thank you guys for coming in. Again, it is Brain in Play, Brain and Wellness Excellence out of Warwick. Katherine and Bill White, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.